The morning sun poured through the tall windows of the neighborhood community center in Manchester, painting warm rectangles of light across the polished wooden floor. Ethan Carter adjusted the stack of donated books on a folding table, while his 8-year-old daughter, Lily, carefully arranged handmade bookmarks beside them. Straight lines. She reminded herself with a grin. Ethan smiled. You become a tougher boss than anyone I ever worked for. Lily folded her arms. That's because you're always rushing. He laughed, raising both hands in surrender. Fair point. Life had not gone the way Ethan once imagined. 5 years earlier, he had been a promising mechanical engineer with a stable career, a comfortable home, and plans that stretched years into the future. Then life changed almost overnight. Instead of dwelling on what he had lost, Ethan focused on what he still had. Lily. Every decision he made began and ended with her. That morning, the community center hosted a charity event connecting local businesses with families seeking apprenticeships, training opportunities, and career advice. Ethan had volunteered because he believed every conversation could open a door. He never expected one conversation to change his own future. Across the hall, several company representatives greeted visitors. Most wore expensive suits. Most looked busy. One woman stood apart. She wasn't speaking the loudest. She wasn't trying to impress anyone. She simply listened. Whenever someone approached her table, she gave them her full attention. Her name badge read, Charlotte Hayes, CO. Ethan noticed people treated her differently, not because she demanded respect, because she earned it. She asked thoughtful questions. She remembered names. She laughed easily. When a nervous apprentice accidentally spilled coffee near her display, Charlotte immediately grabbed paper towels before anyone else moved. No harm done, she said with a reassuring smile. The young man relaxed instantly. Ethan appreciated that. Real character appeared in ordinary moments, not boardrooms, not speeches. Moments like these. Lily tugged gently on his sleeve. Dad. I think that lady is important. What makes you think that? Everyone keeps looking at her before they make decisions. Ethan chuckled. You might be right. An hour later, the event organizer asked Ethan to help move several display stands closer to the entrance. Charlotte was already there, trying to lift one herself. Allow me, Ethan said. It's heavier than it looks. She stepped aside. I appreciate that. Together, they repositioned the display. Charlotte brushed a loose strand of hair behind her ear. Thank you. My pleasure. You volunteer here often? Whenever work allows. What do you do? I'm currently restoring vintage machinery for a local workshop. Her eyebrows lifted. That sounds surprisingly specialized. It pays the bills. And judging by your hands, you're very good at it. Ethan looked down at the faint oil stains that never completely disappeared. I've stopped trying to scrub them away. Charlotte laughed softly. They look like honest work. The conversation flowed naturally. No awkward pauses. No forced compliments. Just genuine curiosity. Lily wandered over carrying 2 paper cups. I brought lemonade. Charlotte accepted one. Thank you. Lily smiled proudly. My dad says kindness is free. Charlotte looked at Ethan. Wise advice. I borrowed it from my grandmother. Then your grandmother was wise too. As the afternoon continued, Ethan found himself helping several exhibitors with practical problems. A loose shelf, a faulty extension cable, a display that wouldn't stand straight. Each time, Charlotte happened to notice, not because he wanted attention, because he simply stepped forward whenever something needed doing. Eventually, the crowd thinned. Charlotte closed the folder and stretched her shoulders. I don't think we've officially introduced ourselves. Ethan Carter. She offered her hand. Charlotte Hayes. Their handshake felt surprisingly natural. Neither hurried. Neither tried to dominate the moment. Instead, they shared an easy smile. Charlotte glanced toward Lily, who was laughing with other children. You've raised an impressive young lady. I'm trying. You're succeeding. The compliment caught him off guard. Thank you. Charlotte looked around the nearly empty hall. You know, people spend all day talking about leadership. And I think it's easier to recognize than to define. What does it look like? She nodded toward him, helping before being asked. Ethan smiled awkwardly. I was just trying to be useful. Exactly. The organizer announced that volunteers were welcome to take leftover sandwiches before packing up. Ethan handed one to Lily. Charlotte accepted one as well. For a few quiet minutes, they ate while watching families leave with information packs and hopeful smiles. It felt strangely peaceful. No pressure, no expectations. Just two people sharing an ordinary afternoon. Charlotte finally broke the silence. I don't usually attend events like this. No, my calendar is normally full of meetings. So why today? She looked across the hall. Because I wanted to remember who our company is supposed to serve. Ethan nodded. That's probably more valuable than another meeting. I think so, too. She smiled. I've enjoyed talking with you. The feeling's mutual. As Charlotte prepared to leave, one of her colleagues approached carrying a briefcase. The car's ready. She nodded. I'll be there in a minute. Before walking away, she turned back toward Ethan. I hope our paths cross again. He shrugged with a warm grin. Well, whoever's with you is lucky. Charlotte paused. For the first time all afternoon, she seemed momentarily speechless. Then a genuine smile spread across her face. I was hoping, she said quietly, that one day that would be you. Ethan blinked. For a heartbeat, the bustling hall seemed to fade into the background. He had expected a polite goodbye. Instead, those simple words marked the beginning of a future neither of them could have imagined. Ethan stood frozen for a moment. Charlotte's words echoed in his mind. I was hoping that would be you. She hadn't spoken dramatically. She hadn't tried to impress anyone. She had simply been honest. Before Ethan could think of a reply, one of Charlotte's senior managers reminded her they had another appointment across town. She smiled at Ethan one last time. I hope this isn't goodbye. It doesn't have to be. She slipped a business card into his hand. Call me when you have time. Not because I'm a CEO. Because I'd like another conversation. With that, she walked toward the entrance. Lily looked up at her father. Dad. He laughed nervously. I know. No. She grinned. I think she likes you. The drive home felt different. Not because Ethan believed his life had suddenly changed. Because someone had seen him for who he was rather than what he owned. For years he had introduced himself as a mechanic, a volunteer, or simply Lily's father. Charlotte had looked beyond every label. 2 days later, Ethan stared at the business card again. He almost convinced himself not to call. What if she was only being polite? Lily looked over his shoulder. You're overthinking. I'm being careful. Same thing. He laughed. When did you become so wise? I watch people. He finally picked up the phone. Charlotte answered herself. Ethan, you remember my number? I was hoping you'd call. He smiled. I thought CEOs had assistants for this. I do. So why'd answer yourself? Because this call mattered. Instead of inviting him to an expensive restaurant, Charlotte suggested a public botanical garden. It'll be quieter, she explained, and Lily will enjoy it if she'd like to come. That surprised Ethan. She hadn't forgotten his daughter. She had included her naturally. Saturday arrived with bright sunshine. Families filled the gardens. Children chased butterflies. Artists painted colorful flowers beside the lake. Charlotte arrived wearing simple clothes instead of a business suit. Without the formal jacket and heels, she looked remarkably different. More relaxed. More approachable. She waved from across the path. Lily ran over first. You came. Charlotte laughed. I said I would. You kept your promise. I intend to. The three of them spent hours exploring. There was no discussion about billion-pound contracts. No luxury cars. No board meetings. Instead, they debated which flower smelled best. Fed ducks beside the pond. Shared sandwiches from a small cafe. Charlotte listened more than she spoke. She wanted to know everything about Lily's school projects. Her favorite books. Her dream of becoming an architect. Ethan noticed something important. Nothing felt forced. As they walked beneath rows of flowering trees, Charlotte asked quietly, what happened to Lily's mother? Ethan answered honestly, We grew apart after life became difficult. I'm sorry. So am I. But we're both trying to be good parents. Charlotte nodded. That's what matters. Later that afternoon, they found a bench overlooking the gardens. Charlotte watched Lily sketch flowers in a notebook. She's incredibly creative. She gets that from her mother. And the kindness? Ethan smiled. I hope that's for me. It is. Weeks passed. Their friendship continued growing. Sometimes Charlotte visited Ethan's workshop during her lunch break. The mechanics eventually stopped whispering whenever a luxury car appeared outside. They simply smiled. Your friend is here, one of them joked. Charlotte loved watching Ethan repair old machines. He explained every process patiently. This gearbox survived nearly 40 years, he said. Most people would have replaced it. But you repaired it. Everything deserves a second chance. Charlotte looked at him thoughtfully. You believe that about people too. I do. One afternoon, Charlotte noticed a young apprentice struggling with confidence. Instead of correcting him herself, Ethan stood beside him. Try again. I'll mess it up. Then we'll fix it together. The apprentice tried once more. This time he succeeded. Charlotte couldn't stop smiling. Leadership. Again. Without a title. Without applause. At headquarters, Charlotte's board members noticed changes. She smiled more often. She shortened unnecessary meetings. She visited company workshops personally. Productivity quietly improved. Employees felt heard. One director finally asked, What's changed? Charlotte answered simply, I've been reminded why we started this company. News spread quickly inside the organization. People became curious about the mysterious mechanic the CEO occasionally met. Speculation filled break rooms. Some assumed he must be a wealthy investor. Others guessed he came from an influential family. The truth surprised everyone. He was simply a hardworking father. One Friday afternoon, Charlotte invited Ethan to tour the company's engineering center. I'd like your opinion. My opinion? Yes. You employ hundreds of engineers. I know, but you notice things they sometimes overlook. The building impressed Ethan. Modern laboratories, advanced equipment, young engineers testing new technology. Charlotte proudly introduced him to the design teams. No one expected the CEO to treat a local mechanic like an equal, yet she did. During one demonstration, Ethan quietly pointed toward a prototype machine. May I ask something? The lead engineer nodded. Of course. If this cooling system runs continuously, won't maintenance costs increase after 2 years? The room fell silent. Several engineers checked their calculations. Minutes later, one of them looked up. He's right. Charlotte didn't look surprised. She looked proud. After the meeting, the engineering director approached Ethan. Would you consider consulting for us? Ethan laughed. I don't think I'd fit in here. Charlotte answered before anyone else could. I think you'd fit perfectly. That evening they walked through the company courtyard. Employees smiled as they passed. Charlotte stopped beneath a large oak tree. My father planted this. It's beautiful. He believed success should help ordinary people. Sounds like a good man. He was. She looked down for a moment. I've been trying to honor that. You already are. Charlotte smiled. You always see the best in people. Someone once did that for me, and now you pass it on. Just then, Charlotte's phone rang. It was the chairman of the board. His tone sounded unusually serious. When she ended the call, her expression had changed. What happened? Ethan asked. The board wanted an emergency meeting. Bad news? I'm not sure. She took a slow breath. But I have a feeling our lives are about to become far more complicated. Ethan looked at her, sensing that whatever came next would test far more than their growing friendship. And neither of them knew that the meeting waiting inside the headquarters would uncover a connection between Charlotte's company and Ethan's past, one that had been forgotten for years, but was about to change both of their futures forever. The boardroom overlooked the London skyline. Morning sunlight poured through the floor-to-ceiling windows, making the polished table gleam. Charlotte entered first. Ethan waited outside in the reception area. Unsure why she had asked him to remain nearby, she had simply smiled and said, If everything goes the way I hope, I'll introduce you in a little while." Inside, the atmosphere was unusually tense. Every director had a thick folder in front of them. The chairman stood. "Charlotte, before we discuss quarterly performance, we've uncovered something during the review of our company's historical engineering projects." Charlotte raised an eyebrow. "What kind of discovery?" "A patent." She looked confused. "A patent from nearly 10 years ago." The chairman slid a folder across the table. "It appears the original concept that became our most successful industrial engine wasn't created entirely by our research division." Charlotte opened the file. The first page contained a familiar name, Ethan Carter. Her eyes widened. "That can't be right." "It is." One of the legal advisors continued. "The records show Mr. Carter worked for one of the smaller engineering firms we acquired years ago." Charlotte kept reading. The design sketches looked remarkably similar to the technology her company had refined over the years. Not identical, but unmistakably connected. Another director spoke. "When the acquisition happened, several employee records were archived incorrectly. His contribution was never recognized." Charlotte closed the folder. "So the company has benefited from his work all these years, without giving him credit." The room fell silent. Outside, Ethan watched employees crossing the courtyard below. He had no idea what was happening upstairs. He simply admired the teamwork. Young apprentices walked beside experienced engineers. Managers carried equipment instead of pointing at others. Charlotte had clearly built a culture where respect mattered. His phone buzzed. It was Lily. "How's your meeting?" "I'm still waiting." "Don't forget my school exhibition tomorrow." "I wouldn't miss it." She laughed. "You'd better not." Back upstairs, the discussion continued. One director leaned forward. "If this becomes public, we'll face criticism." Charlotte answered calmly. "Only if we respond poorly." Another director frowned. "It could cost millions." Charlotte looked around the room. "Then we'll pay what is fair." Silence. The chairman smiled slightly. "My father used to say integrity costs less than reputation." Charlotte nodded. "And today we prove he was right." Half an hour later, Charlotte walked into the reception area. Ethan immediately noticed something different. She looked emotional. "Everything all right?" She smiled. "Better than all right." She handed him the folder. "I think you should read this." He slowly turned the pages. His expression changed with every document. Engineering drawings, prototype notes, employment records, old signatures. Finally he whispered, "I remember these." Charlotte nodded. "So do we?" He looked up. "I don't understand." "The company you work for was acquired years ago." "I know. During that transition, your early engineering concept became part of a much larger development program." Ethan frowned. "I never heard anything after I left. Neither did anyone else." She took a deep breath. "Until now." Ethan closed the folder. "I'm not interested in blaming anyone." "I know, but you deserve recognition." "I was just doing my job." Charlotte smiled warmly. "That's exactly why you deserve it." A week later, the company organized a special event. Employees from every department gathered in the Innovation Center. Charlotte stepped onto the stage. "We often celebrate new ideas." She paused. "But today we're celebrating an idea that should have been recognized years ago." She invited Ethan onto the stage. The applause began before he reached the microphone. He looked genuinely uncomfortable. Charlotte laughed softly. "I know you don't enjoy attention." "You noticed." "I notice a lot." She presented him with a framed certificate recognizing his contribution to one of the company's most influential engineering foundations. Then she announced something nobody expected. "We're also establishing the Carter Innovation Scholarship." The audience erupted into applause. "It will help apprentices and young engineers who have talent but lack opportunity." Ethan looked at Charlotte. "You didn't have to do this." "I wanted to." After the ceremony, journalists gathered outside. One reporter asked Ethan, "How does it feel to finally receive recognition?" He smiled. "Recognition is wonderful. But seeing young people receive opportunities because of this..." He glanced toward the apprentices laughing nearby. "That's the real reward." Charlotte couldn't hide her smile. Months passed. The scholarship program quickly became one of the company's proudest achievements. Applications arrived from across the UK. Many successful candidates came from ordinary families, exactly as Charlotte had hoped. Ethan volunteered as a mentor. Every Friday afternoon, he spent time helping young engineers solve practical problems. His favorite sentence became, "Don't be afraid to ask why." Lily loved visiting headquarters. She knew nearly everyone by name. The reception staff greeted her with waves. Engineers proudly showed her their newest prototypes. One afternoon, Charlotte found Lily studying a scale model of a future factory. "What do you think?" Lily pointed toward the green spaces. "It needs more trees." Charlotte laughed. "I'll tell the architects." "I'm serious." "So am I?" Their friendship slowly became something deeper. There were no dramatic declarations, no grand public gestures. It grew through ordinary moments: morning coffee before work, weekend charity events, school concerts, family picnics. The strongest relationships, Ethan realized, were built in everyday life. One sunny Saturday, Charlotte invited Ethan and Lily to the community center where they had first met. Nothing had changed. Children still laughed. Volunteers still arranged books. The organizer recognized them immediately. "I remember this day." "So do we," Charlotte replied. She turned to Ethan. "You know." He smiled. "I know." She laughed. "No, let me finish." He nodded. "Go ahead." She looked around the familiar hall before meeting his eyes. "The day we met, you said something I'll never forget." Ethan chuckled. "I've said lots of things." "You told me." She smiled. "Whoever's with you is lucky." He laughed. "I remember." She stepped a little closer. "I never answered properly." "You didn't." "No." She reached for his hand. "The truth is, I'm the lucky one." Ethan smiled, unable to find the right words. Lily clapped happily from a few feet away. "I knew this was going to happen." Everyone nearby laughed. 1 year later, the Carter Innovation Scholarship celebrated its first graduating class. Dozens of young engineers had begun careers they once thought impossible. Several returned to thank Ethan personally. One apprentice shook his hand. "You changed my future." Ethan smiled. "No." He looked toward Charlotte. "We changed it together." Charlotte squeezed his hand. "That's how the best futures are built." As the ceremony ended, the chairman quietly approached Charlotte. "Your father would have been proud." She looked across the hall. Ethan was laughing with Lily and a group of apprentices. "I hope so." The chairman smiled. He believed great companies are measured by the lives they improve. Charlotte nodded. Then we're finally measuring success the right way. Years later, visitors entering the company's innovation center would notice a bronze plaque near the entrance. It didn't list profits. It didn't mention share prices. Instead, it carried a simple message. The greatest investment is believing in people before they believe in themselves. Whenever Ethan walked past it, he smiled, because he remembered the ordinary afternoon when he had offered one sincere compliment without expecting anything in return. "Whoever's with you is lucky." He had meant every word. He simply never imagined that the CEO's reply would change his future forever.